Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, November 11th, 2014. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. While Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says he takes no pleasure in suing anyone, he maintains that he has a reputation to protect and will use the law court for such protection. Speaking specifically to recent defamatory statements he says were made against him and the chairman of the Housing and Land Development Corporation, the HLDC, Beresford Phillips, by an NDP supporter, Margaret London, on Nice Radio, Dr. Gonsalves yesterday told members of the media that he has already instructed his lawyer to proceed with legal action against both London and the owner of the radio station.
Beresford Phillips is not a candidate yet for the Unity Labour Party. He is only a potential candidate. And you can tell how Leacock is panicking. They have trained their guns at him falsely. They mentioned something about his job in the insurance business. He's suing for that. He's suing Eustace for that. They also, Margaret London, defamed him and me last week or the week before on her program, for which I understand there was an apology this morning on the radio station, which is because I called Dougie De Freitas on Friday when I got his I said, Dougie, I'm calling you to tell you that I am going to sue Margaret London because I've given Bollers my lawyer instructions so to do. I gave him a transcript of the document. Beresford Phillips tell me he's also suing.
Prime Minister Gonsalves says he has since spoken to Nice Radio owner Douglas De Freitas, who has offered an apology and also informed him that he has asked London to apologize as well.
When he doesn't control some of these bizarre people who just interested in defaming me, his radio station then naturally comes into it. I have a forgiving heart and I have a forgiving spirit. And, you know, persons have to not take advantage of that. You can't just, every morning you get up, you pray, you have prayers for God, and then you just turn from me with a lot of falsehoods and defamatory stuff. By all means, be robust in your criticism of me. If you don't support the government's policies, be robust, but don't make up things.
Meanwhile, manager of Nice Radio Douglas De Freitas told SVG-TV News earlier today that he has apologized to the Prime Minister and hopes that the matter can be quickly resolved without any further wrangling. De Freitas said the ball is now in the Prime Minister's court to make a decision.
Prime Minister called me on Friday and we had a frank discussion on the matter, and I also called him back on Sunday. We had another discussion on the matter, and we spoke up to last evening on several other issues pertaining to broadcasts. And I don't condone wrong. When Margaret published the information, I told her that she did a wrong thing, in my opinion, and that she need to apologize to the Prime Minister on the matter, because you cannot publish some things that you cannot prove. That is a norm. So I have spoken to him on the matter. I think that we have a good understanding between ourselves on this issue, and so I somehow believe that the Prime Minister is thinking about the matter before he make any further decision. I think Margaret also had spoken to him personally, from what I understood, and that she also had written him a letter of apology. I did write a letter of apology to the Prime Minister on the matter.
Meanwhile, De Freitas says he's also willing and ready to apologize to the chairman of the HLDC, Beresford Phillips.
I haven't seen anything from Mr. Phillips. The last letter that I received from his lawyers about Mr. Eustace, I asked my lawyer to make an apology, on behalf of the station. I don't have all the details. I don't know what evidence Mr. Eustace has on any matter that he would have read on that program about Mr. Phillips. The issue with Margaret London, I would apologize to Mr. Phillips the same way. Because, you know, being a manager of a station and having programs of the nature that they are, sometimes people get overzealous and they do things without thinking. So it is important for me to apologize when it's necessary, and it's also the onus of Mr. Phillips to determine whether or not he wants to accept that apology.
Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves has won several previous defamation cases he has brought against Nice Radio and some of its commentators. With the recent introduction of the new property tax system here, PM Gonsalves said government has seen an uptake in monies collected by almost $500,000 up to September 2014. Dr. Gonsalves says at the end of September 2013, some $2.34 million were collected, while for the comparable period in 2014, the figure increased to $2.8 million. The passing of the new property tax law allows for the payment of property tax to be based on 0.08% of the market value of the property, a move which came under some heavy criticism from the opposition New Democratic Party. Dr. Gonsalves explains that the uptake is not a result of persons paying more individually, but states the net has been spread wider to include a lot more persons who are not on the tax roll.
We have a property worth $1 million. 0.08% of $1 million for the 0.08% is $800, not as what they told people, $8,000. You know, it was 0.08 and it doesn't 0.8. You know, and if you have a property worth $200,000, it's $160 in property tax. If you have a property worth $200,000 and you pay $160 in property tax, Heavenly Father, you divide it behind the 160 by 12. You know, it's not even $25 a month. But what we did a wider net.
Persons with properties under $25,000 are exempted from the property tax. Police here are now investigating an alleged theft involving at least 2 employees at the construction site of the International Airport at Argyle. At a media conference yesterday, PM Gonsalves said just over a week ago, the Chief Executive Officer at the IADC, Dr. Rudy Matthias, informed him of the incident, where 1 or 2 employees had allegedly been involved in pilfering of materials from the project site.
We are having zero tolerance on this matter in every area. So if we find anything which is amiss, we deal promptly. And I told Dr. Matthias, I said, you have the persuasive evidence. Even though the evidence may not be conclusive, you take the matter to the police and you get those workers off the site. It's a simple matter. So that I would expect that they will send me the report when they've done all of those things. I mean, well, he would expect that I will tell him exactly that, but he had to report to me as the minister responsible.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves said he will be traveling later this month on November 23rd to New York City to host a town hall meeting with nationals living in the diaspora. Coming up, Vincentians now have better access to information about the WTO through a reference center. More stories on the local scene when SVG-TV News continues. A 3-day training workshop for government officials and persons in the private sector on the use of the World Trade Organization, The WTO Reference Center commenced here today. The Reference Center is an important facility which brings opportunity for everyone to have access to research information regarding the WTO and its activities. Director of Trade, Cuthbert Knight, said the Reference Center is one which serves as a learning facility.
You are quite well aware that the WTO has what is called a progressive learning strategy, which is delivered over a e-learning platform. I take it that some of you would have already pursued and completed some of these programs. And it is also a learning facility where we are urging and encouraging you to take full use of the opportunity to engage these e-learning subjects or activities, and we urge you to also take the message back to your ministries, to your organization, institutions, etc.
Knights also made it clear that the use of the center is not restricted to anyone.
It's open to the general public. All who may wish to use the reference center for research purpose. It is a serious place for serious people. And you note I said the academia, private sector, public servants, parliamentarians, NGOs, whatever groups, organizations within our society. So we're encouraging you to use that.
Meanwhile, WTO Representative Janet Chakarian-Arenas said the basic objective of the WTO Reference Center program is to enable government officials, private sector, and the academic community to obtain trade-related information resources on the WTO internet site,
as well as in electronic versions on CD-ROMs developed by the WTO, the publications that we provide, and to facilitate the access and the use of the e-learning program. As you know, the WTO has a very full program of e-learning, and so one of the objectives of the Reference Center is to facilitate the use of the e-learning program for government officials as well as for the private sector.
While Prime Minister Gonsalves is at the moment unable to give his government's position on the acquisition of Flow by Cable and Wireless, the Prime Minister says on the surface the move poses some issues as it relates to monopoly. At yesterday's media conference, Prime Minister Gonsalves says his cabinet is yet to discuss the matter, but states that he was informed of the move and he is expected to be properly advised on the issue by the officials in the Ministry of Telecommunications and the NTRC, along with the professionals at ECTEL.
But clearly, on the face of it, it raises questions which have to be satisfied. Because we have a law which we passed in 2001 in the Parliament of St. Vincent and Grenadines, which opened the door for competition to move away from cable and wireless having a monopoly. What we are now having is a monopoly in the country for the internet services, because you had Carib Cable, Columbus, and Lime, and now there's only Lime.
Prime Minister Gonsalves adds that the regulatory authorities will have to look seriously at regulating that monopoly going forward.
The law has provisions for monopolies, dominant providers, and how to address those. There's a legal framework, and if need be, we will strengthen the legal framework to make sure that dominant providers or monopolies do not provide substandard services and at prices which are normally would be not competitive if you had another provider in the marketplace.
Teachers here are being told that they have a pivotal role to play in the holistic development of the nation's youths. Speaking at the second annual education conference, President of the SVG Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, noted that teachers need to ensure that the youths develop academically adding that there is a diversity of students whose needs have to be addressed.
We fight for money, increase salaries, for appointments, but that's not all. We have a pivotal role to play in the holistic development of the nation's children. We cannot miss this opportunity to say to our teachers that we have to make changes. The nature of teaching has changed. And sometimes when we would have graduated from university or the teachers' college, we forget about the teaching methods.
Meanwhile, Robinson is encouraging teachers to look at themselves critically and see what changes can be made for their own benefit as well as their students.
We've been paid to do a job, and we have to do it to the best of our abilities. The existing curriculum and the pedagogical methods, those are being questioned. The issue of time management is also very important. Yes, a lot more teachers are dying rapidly. We are seeing that. Till somebody made a joke at us and they said, which funeral will we walking with? Because they see the teachers' unions presence at these funerals. But we say all of them.
The local Girl Guides Association today culminated activities for the 100th celebration of guiding in SVG with a parade around Kingstown. The parade began at the Peace Memorial Hall and ended at the Girl Guide headquarters in Lever Gardens. Taking part in the event were executive members, council members, ranger guides, girl guides, Brownies and Bim Bims. The parade was held under the theme Ever Alive, Celebrate and Thrive. President of the SVG Girl Guides Association, Renee Batiste, says the events held for the centenary celebrations will go down in history and thanked those who have been supporting the association over the years.
I want to give a very special hand, a very special applause for the Bim Bims and Brownies who made it all the way on this centenary parade. I want to thank their guiders and leaders who worked so hard to ensure that we had 140 countries, 45 countries represented on this centenary parade. We have given a lesson about the history and the span and scope of guiding throughout the world. And I know that several of the persons looking on didn't realize you had guides in so many parts of the world, from every corner of planet Earth. We have made the Girl Guides of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the association. We made history today. What a wonderful parade. And imagine 50 years from now, every Bim Bim here present would remember this parade. It was epic.